host, Christina Barn. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barn. Today we're going to be talking about an interesting, some data that's come out about liberals are just sadder than conservatives. I didn't need a poll to tell me that. And also, they are less satisfied with their mental health. Interesting. We'll be analyzing that, talking a little bit about why. Also, interesting video I saw today from a member of the European Parliament about COVID and how someone from Pfizer admitted that they really didn't test, I guess, or follow about transmission. And so they just want to point out that was the lie that sold everyone, or that you have to take the vaccine, not for you so much, not just for you, but for your neighbor, for your friend. And so people pushed the passports and all this other stuff, did this psychological, emotional sort of manipulation, not sort of, it was a manipulation of people, which people who study mental health understood the group pairing mentality that was necessary with the vaccines, and letting people know that, hey, you're not doing this just for you, you're doing it for someone else. And it, I don't know, gave a lot of people a hero complex as well. And so they just want to spread the word like this was all a big lie. So it's an important video. I'm at least going to share it with you guys, and I want you guys to go ahead and share it around. Also, Dearborn is very upset. There was a bit of a breakout. My sister shared with me a video someone put on TikTok, but I've seen it in other places. The media is covering it. But Dearborn, which has a high population of Muslims, and in Michigan, but just in the country, Dearborn has a high population of Muslims, just period. And there was some kind of school board meeting or council meeting or something, and it just erupted with people because they don't want LGBT books and stuff in the schools. So they start chanting, "We'll vote you out." And so the Democrats are playing some interesting games. We'll see how it goes for them, because that is a big chunk, man, up in Dearborn. So we'll be also talking about that, and also look at the snippet of JD Vance talking about, he got an abortion question at the debate, which no shocker there, especially with the 10-year-old story. And he pointed out that the reason why this happened is because there's an illegal alien in the country. And people thought there was a dodge, like he was blaming immigrants or something, and it's like, no, it's just what happened. It's not a dodge. And he also answered the question, so we'll be talking about that as well. So before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content that we have on the website, check out different videos, etc., articles. Make sure that you're dropping your email, that you're that you're subscribing, and all that good stuff across all the different social media platforms. If you watch on Facebook, please make sure to go ahead and also subscribe on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, all the links should be on the description to where you can find me on different platforms. So you can go to blacktnews.com and also find that out as well. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com. It costs to stream, costs to run my website, do all that kind of stuff. So I very much appreciate anyone who's willing to help out in that way. But you can go to the website and do all that. Please check out different merch that we have, like the cool pro-choice men are sus shirt there. You guys know how I feel about pro-choice men. From KC Aborted. If you're from Canada, we have these cool Free Canada shirts when we got the whole trucker thing going on. And since they're trying to start that COVID stuff up, you guys can still get that stuff at the store. And you are not that special. We got all kinds of good stuff that you guys can get at the site. Again, this weekend I'll be at Motor City Comic Con, so I will not be streaming live. I'm not going to do a pre-recorded show. I just got too much to kind of do. But for those of you who do not know, I write books. I have a nonfiction book, but most of them are fiction. And if you go to Black Tea News and hit the merchandise button link, it'll take you to the website so you guys can take a peek at all the goodies that I have. I got stuff from, kids on up. So go ahead and check out my library. I got a lot of good stuff there. So, I also want to thank Bright Emission Pack. I'm in their studio today. If I say something today that triggers you, they don't care. I don't care. It does not work like that. But I appreciate being here and using the space. And there's no one to complain to. It doesn't work like that. I'm just using the space. God bless them. Okay, you guys know that I like to start with something a little humorous. So I just saw this meme that J.K. Rowling replied to. J.K. Rowling is like the most major turf, I guess. Something radical feminist, but trans people don't like her. So they said, so here's the scene from the movie. One of the movies, I think that's the last one, perhaps, I think. And he's like, what happened to him? And it's like, oh, J.K. Rowling said pedophiles shouldn't work at children's hospitals. And she said, I can't lie. I just laughed so loudly. I scared my dogs. And so, yeah, J.K. Rowling made people upset because, and she's a pretty woke person. Like, I have articles on my site trashing her for some of her wokeness, so she's left, but she just won't go as far to say that, hey, men can be men can be women, and women can be men. She's not down with that, and people hate her for that. And she is someone who's vocal about it, and people aren't cool with her. So people come at her for all kinds of stuff. I don't know particularly the story that is referencing, that particular meme, but I can guess from the content. And people hate her so much over this issue, but I'm glad that someone's standing up to the madness. So I do appreciate J.K. Rowling in that sense. Not too long ago, I covered how she and Matt Walsh were going back and forth, and though it seemed like they appreciate each other's work as far as what he did with What Is a Woman, they're not quite on the same side. But Matt did throw an interesting question, like, he said, why do you think it is that you agree with all these people except for this particular issue? And so he just kind of started weaving and threading just the reality that a lot of the feminism is denying that there's some kind of, biology to our reality and some of our gender roles. And especially like some of the stuff that second wave feminists said. And this is kind of like the evolution. The walking off the cliff, looking down and realizing there's no floor beneath you, I guess, evolution of the of feminism. But it's a very interesting concept. But him and some other people have talked about it. I think I have that conversation a bit in an article that I wrote about it, so you can go back to blacktnews.com and check that out. But anyway, let's move on. I want to go to JD Vance's debate, the snippet that I have for that first. So Tim Ryan versus JD Vance. Of course, the abortion topic would come up, especially since Ohio had that terrible story about the 10-year-old who was raped, and they crossed state lines because they're saying, because they had like a heartbeat bill in Ohio, I believe. And so they crossed state lines and went to a different state. Turns out they didn't need to go to a different state because it's not just life of the mother exceptions, but if your body's going to be like terribly harmed, I guess, then you could also get an abortion too. This was a 10-year-old who got raped, so she would have been able to get an abortion in that particular circumstance. So maybe they didn't know that, and that's why they crossed the border. Maybe they thought it would be hard and difficult, and granted, maybe some people wouldn't have understood and interpreted the law in that sort of way. But they decided to go to a different state. And I wonder if some of it had to do with the fact that he was an illegal alien who raped the daughter, and it apparently was the mother's boyfriend. I don't know if she still has if that child is still with her. People haven't been really following the story so much, or it hasn't been getting a lot of play since the identity was revealed. So a lot of people on the right at first even questioned if it was real, because they're like, this is a really heinous crime. Where's like the sort of evidence? But um, other people who are more familiar with how stuff like this works is they knew that it was true the entire time. Equal Rights Institute has a really interesting podcast about their response, and they're interviewing a counselor who deals with um, sexual assault and trauma through pregnancies and all those other sorts of things. And she explained why she knew it was true, what the doctor who reported to the media did wrong, what we can actually do to help women in this sort of situation, and that rape and abortion isn't a cure, obviously, for rape, and you would treat that trauma differently. Um, and they even said one thing that was really interesting. Warren Hearn, who literally wrote the textbook on abortion, said that abortion is not a cure for rape. So it was just a very worthwhile podcast. If you have the time to listen to it's about an hour and 40 minutes long, but where they talked in detail about this case and what happens. And she guessed pretty early on that it was probably a family member, but it was the mother's boyfriend. But anyway, he was an illegal alien. So here was JD Vance's response.
As an exception.
Look, I've always believed in reasonable exceptions. This is a misrepresentation of my view, but let's hear it from me, not from Congressman Ryan. I absolutely think the 10-year-old girl, the case that we've, of course, heard a lot about, an incredibly tragic situation. I mean, look, I've got a 9-year-old baby girl at home. I cannot imagine what that's like for the girl, for her family. God forbid something like that would happen. I have said repeatedly on the record that I think that girl should be able to get an abortion if she and her family so choose to do so. But let's talk about that case. Because why was a 10-year-old girl raped in our community, raped in our state in the first place? The thing the media and Congressman Ryan, they talk about this all the time. The thing they never mentioned is that poor girl was raped by an illegal alien, somebody that should have never been in this state in the first place. You voted so many times against border wall funding, so many times for amnesty, Tim. If you had done your job, she would have never been raped in the first place. Do your job on border security. Don't lecture me about opinions I don't actually have.
Okay, so the man who did it he is an illegal alien, but people started saying stuff like, "Oh, he just Biden's border, etc." He's been here for a little bit, so I don't want people to think he like freshly crossed the border or something like that, because that's what some people like assume, but that's not the case. He's been here for a little while. I think he pre Biden, but they people are upset that JD Vance, and there was one journalist who tweeted out like, "Oh, he dodged the question and then blamed illegal aliens." I'm like, no, he answered the question. He gave us specifics. Well, they asked him about that particular scenario. He answered that he believed in reasonable exceptions, and he gave an example of a reasonable exception, such as this case with the 10-year-old. And then he went on to pivot and throw it back, and he answered the question, but then he did his counterpunch and like, dude, this was someone who shouldn't have been in the country, and you're not good on the border. So Mike Cernovich was like, this is how you answer questions. You don't, no more apologizing, don't do that soft kind of stuff, like punch it back at them and hold them accountable for their records. And Republicans should hold them accountable for their records. This was a terrible, terrible story. And I can't imagine being that little girl, but just for all sorts of reasons, not just because she was abused in such a terrible, awful way that no one, especially a child, should have to go through. To apparently not have your mother truly on your side, because she's taken the side of her boyfriend. Ugh. And then to have this story like blasted everywhere, and to be such a national conversation about abortion and so on. and then people using that experience to justify basically everyone. It was just really really exploitive, and that kind of stuff. It is heartbreaking. I hope that she can get the help that she needs, but it doesn't seem like she was with the people who can get her that sort of help. So it's just a tragedy all the way around. Just really a tragedy all the way around. But yeah, they're upset at JD Vance for mentioning the obvious. He answered the question, and what he said was legit. That person should not have even been in the country. So um it is what it is, bruh. Also, in Dearborn, you guys know I'm from Michigan. There was an eruption of parents. Let me show you a little bit of the chaos they call it. But they basically like shut down the meeting, and they're like, if you shut it down, we're gonna vote you out. And people start chanting, vote you out, vote you out, vote you out. Um, very interesting stuff. Yeah, so that's in Dearborn. For those of you who don't know, Dearborn is in Michigan, and it is an area that has a high population of Muslims. I think even like just in the nation, it has a very high population, one of the highest, if not the highest, but it's very high. Normally an area that votes blue, so you get what you vote for. But man, if they decide to vote for someone else, get angry and vote red. So I don't know how many Republicans are very interested in this story. But if you're not, you're crazy. My sister sent me this not too long ago, and I'm just like, I gotta connect with these people. Oh my gosh, because there's first of all, people act like Christians are so awful and Christian nationalism is the worst, but they just mainly really dislike or have the guts to talk about white Christians, right? But because black churches are very political, and they don't have a problem if it's like a Marxist black church or something like if you go into like Warnock's church or something in like Georgia. But if it was a church like mine where we're all conservative, that's a problem. So they pick and choose who they think is okay to have, their religion. But they always want to pick on Christians, but other people of other faiths are also very conservative as well. Now, like black people, they might go ahead and they might vote for the blue, but there's some issues they're like, I'm not cool with that. So having these explicit children's books that have the LGBT stuff in it, and some of them are really graphic. I don't know what all the graphic content, because I'm reading this article from the Free Press. I don't know if they get too deep into it. Might have to find a source from a little bit of TikTok or something. But they're not cool with that. They're not cool with that. They're not okay with that. So if that's the kind of stuff that they're pushing in the books, and there's different people in the article saying that different women had signs like "Stop grooming our kids," "You sexually perverted animals." What a sign! What a sign! But it was mostly Dearborn residents in one of hundreds at the September 25 rally, mostly Muslim. Um, One woman with a headscarf held up a poster with a red X over a pride flag that said, "Keep your twisted mindset to yourself." Some hurled anti gay slurs at counter protester who was trans and told him to go cry. Oh, wow. They got aggressive. They got really, really aggressive. So, and to have that counter protest as well going on at the same time. Yeah, that's not going to fly well That's not going to fly well. So I wonder how it's going to go with people being against Prop 3, or how much that community particularly knows about it. And you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to find out for sure. For sure. Because again, people are not okay with this. They can try to sneak in their agendas, but hopefully it just utterly destroys them at the ballot box. Hopefully it just utterly destroys them at the ballot box. I know in Michigan, like, there was a Taft-Clair poll or whatever that had Gretchen like 5 points ahead, and there was like 2% for the Libertarian candidate. There was, in the independents, there wasn't a lot of room. So either Democrats have to sway, or I don't know how many Republicans might be going that way. But Republicans need to come home. Democrats need to sway. But there's just more Democrats than there are Republicans. If there's high turnout, usually we have a bad day. That's just how it is. And with the mail-in stuff, in 2020, it's just been harder. And people say it's because of cheating. There's more numbers. They just have more numbers. So I've been saying, hey, we need to go and we need to actually convert people and not just like run around with our heads chopped off during election years. But people haven't really listened. But hey, I'm trying to do my part. It's partly why I do what I do. But this is going to be bad for them. This is going to be bad for them for sure. But I think that's interesting. And they've been coming at Christians and these white conservative parents who've been upset about these sort of books in the schools, or the bathroom stuff, policies, critical race theory, and all the other kind of stuff. And so when it's a minority that they love and hold in such high regard, they're probably, you don't know what to do with it. But it's it's not just Christians who hold more traditional sort of views. So I really, really hope that bites them in the butt. They're seeing a shift with the Hispanic community. I don't know if I still have I had a poll. I don't have it on me right now, but there was a poll that showed where Hispanics were for Trump, versus today, like for 2024 polling. Not saying that Trump is going to run, but he's the assumed person. But now he's like over 50% in the poll that I saw. I'm like, that's a huge leap. And it's a huge leap because of inflation. It's a huge leap because of the parental rights, because of the sort of stuff that's in the schools. People are not okay with it. And I wish that you had Black people who were going to shift as hard and fast as other folks. I can't explain why there's such devotion to the Democrat Party. But maybe we'll get it one of these days. Maybe we'll get it one of these days. Next thing I want to show you guys is this video that this European Parliament guy has been sharing around regarding COVID. And it's with someone from Pfizer, talking about the vaccine and whether or not they tested it, about the rate of how it would do as far as transmitting person to person. And I think it's pretty fascinating.
If you don't get vaccinated, you're antisocial. This is what the Dutch Prime Minister and Health Minister told us. You don't get vaccinated just for yourself, but also for others. You do it for all of society. That's what I said. Today, this turned out to be complete nonsense. In a COVID hearing in the European Parliament, one of the Pfizer directors just admitted to me, at the time of introduction, the vaccine had never been tested on stopping the transmission of the virus. This removes the entire legal basis for the COVID passport. The COVID passport that led to massive institutional discrimination as people lost access to essential parts of society. I find this to be shocking, even criminal. Please watch the video until the end.
Voor u, mevrouw Small, heb ik de volgende vraag waar ik een duidelijk antwoord op wil. And I will speak in English so there are no misunderstandings. Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market? If not, please say it clearly. If yes, are you willing to share the data with this committee? And I really want a straight answer, yes or no, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping immunisation before it's entered the market? No. We had to really move at the speed of science to really understand what is taking place in the market.
This is scandalous. Millions of people worldwide felt forced to get vaccinated because of the myth that you do it for others. Now this turned out to be a cheap lie. This should be exposed. Please share this video.
Yeah, that's Rob Bruce. Yeah, that's why she laugh? Like that she laughed as if that was some kind of absurd question. Very legitimate. And she said we had to move at the speed of science. What is the speed of science? No, you had to move at the speed of hysteria. That's what you moved in, because the science is a process, and sometimes it just takes time. You're not moving at the speed of science. That's totally just you could move at the speed of politics, I guess, fear, manipulation, end games, but the speed of science, no. Science is a process, and if you were going to be devoted to the science, then you would do what makes sense based on the actual data and not just what you presume. So not taking the time to see how transmission would actually happen and how the vaccine would affect transmission before and maybe that's what they were saying up front about it not stopping transmission and before it entered the market or whatever, because they eventually admitted some more stuff on later, but early on, I think there was a New York Times article, whatever, that I read that it wasn't going to stop transmission. So I'm like, so it didn't make sense to me then. I'm like, okay, then why are we doing all this stuff if it's not going to but they didn't care. They just kept feeding. Hey, do it for your neighbor, for your friend, for your grandma. Like, just shut everything down. You can't go outside. You can't go to your other property. You can't invite people over to your house who are outside of your household. You can't go to church. You can go get an abortion, though. You can totally do that, but you can't, get your equipment changed out for your pacemaker or anything like that. You can't do. But hey, if you want to go to abortion clinic, that's absolutely fine, because that's essential. Like, seriously, and I'm just describing life in Michigan. Maybe you're from Florida and you can't fathom that kind of life, but it was awful. Past 2 years, well, in 2020, 2021, they still. I did a video. Was that last week? Went to the Coleman Young building in Detroit, and everybody had to wear masks. Like, it's right on the door. I didn't have one, but they have, someone with the mask when you enter in. And I wanted to go there to speak about Prop 3, so I just put it on, and I was like, you still got to wear these? And I said, it says right on the box, it doesn't stop COVID. And so security guard starts looking at the box. I'm like, it says right on the box. So they're just trying to make people feel better, I guess, but they're not following the science. They're not following and going along with the speed of science. That was never a thing. It was absolutely never a thing. So, are people going to pay for this? I guess maybe some people have an election, but we'll see in Michigan if someone really pays for this, because it doesn't seem like there's going to be any sort of recourse for Gretchen Whitmer and some of her lockdown policies, and especially with the elderly. The best we can do is not to reelect her, and at this point it's looking like that's how it's going to go, unless there's some major turn. Hopefully Tudor will have a knockout sort of night at the debate on Thursday, but it's really wild. It's really wild how they just broke our world for their own benefit, for their own personal gain. But they said they could use the pandemic to start implementing certain things that they wanted, and they certainly did, especially like a lot of stuff with policies of drop boxes and voting and other things like that. But the amount of control that they took, we've done some pretty big damage. We've done some pretty significant damage, I think. So next time when there's a worse crisis, I don't think people are going to go, well, you know what, you got us once, shame on shame on you. And I'm not going to say shame on me this time. I think it's going to be a shame on them again. I think they're going to let people get away with it if they have something else, especially if it's like significantly worse. If they craft something that's significantly worse. I was I got to say I was disappointed at how easy it was for a lot of people to just surrender their liberties and their freedoms. I was very disappointed. I guess it is what it is. Okay, moving on. Interesting article. This is from the Post by Unheard. Bradford Wilcox did this, I guess it was yesterday. Why liberals are less happy than conservatives. Liberals, especially liberal women, are significantly less likely to be happy with their lives and satisfied with their mental health compared to their conservative peers aged from 18 to 55. That is a big voting chunk right there. This is the big takeaway from the 2022 American Family Survey, a striking new poll from YouGov and the Desert News, which found that liberals are about 15% points less likely to be completely satisfied with their lives. The survey goes on to find that liberals are about 18 percentage points less likely to be completely satisfied with their mental health than conservatives. But the problem appears to be especially acute for liberal women who register the lowest levels of satisfaction with their lives and mental health. Indeed, only 15% of liberal women in the age group surveyed are completely satisfied with their lives, compared to 31% of conservative women. Likewise, only 15% of liberal women are completely satisfied with their mental health, compared to 36% of conservative women. Two family factors have a lot to do with this ideological gap: marital status and family satisfaction, given that conservatives aged 18 to 55 are about 20 percentage points more likely to be married, as well as 18 percentage points more likely to be satisfied with their families. The lesson here is obvious. Marriage and family are strongly linked to happiness and to personal mental health in particular. On the family front, conservative Americans, not politicians, admittedly have a major advantage, in part because they are more likely to embrace the family first values and virtues that steer them towards wedlock and fulfilling family lives. This appears to be especially true here for conservative women who report the highest levels of satisfaction with their family lives. The problem facing liberals, then, is that too many of them have embraced the false narrative that the path to happiness runs counter to marriage and family life, not towards it. They think independence, freedom from work will make them happy, which is why significant portions of the popular media are filled these days with stories celebrating divorce and singleness. A recent story by Molly Smith and Bloomberg, for instance, falsely claimed that women who stay single, don't have kids, are getting richer. In reality, married mothers are richest, and spotlighted childless single women who claim personal happiness in the words of one: "I love my life and I feel very fulfilled." The challenge for progressives is to understand and appreciate that these women are outliers. The secret to happiness for most men and women involves marriage and life based around the family. The challenge for conservatives, of course, is to find new cultural platforms to communicate the value of marriage and family life to young adult audience fleeing from the very way of life most likely to increase the odds of happiness. So, very fascinating. I didn't need to see this data to know that conservatives are happy, and liberal women are the most miserable people. But Then there's been other polls as well, so it's not really new information to me anyway, as far as like data. But it's interesting seeing some of the pushback or explanations from folks on the left. So they're saying, well, could it be that people are conservative because they're happier with their lives, and that liberals are less happy because they see injustice and they center around different policies to, I guess, weed out and get rid of that sort of injustice. And the correlation with the family is pretty solid as far as those numbers go. So I think that's a better explanation um as far as like marriage status and your family, how you treat them, your relationships with them, how you see them and how you value them overall. I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, people would comment all the time about my family, my immediate family, and they ask my dad like, "How did you raise all these kids?" Because we're a family of seven, six girls, one boy, and we all lived together for so long, just under one roof, and we all get along. I mean, that we don't, I'm not saying we don't fight, but not like other people fight. Certainly not. And my mom and my dad, they have a very special marriage. They don't really fight and argue or anything like that, and they're just well, my mom believes in the scripture, don't let the sun go down in your wrath. So whatever issues you have, by the next day, like let it go, like move, don't keep it with you. So that was one of her things that she lived with and enforced in the house as well. Like even if we tried to like fight about something and carry it over the next day, you could just hear her yelling from the top steps, "The sun went down, sun went down, let go." Or sometimes make, "Shut up, go pray." would be their advice. So when my parents first got married, my dad he would tell the story. People would ask like, "Do you and your wife fight?" And he's like, "We used to, but she's smarter now." And people were like, "What?" And then so he said when they first got married, he said, "First rule of this marriage: me Tarzan, you Jane." And she was just like, "Nope." And so then he would, as he would say that, like years later, just kind of teasing her, and he was just kind of teasing, I guess. Anyway, he is very like macho, masculine, a bit, people would definitely say he's a chauvinist, but I think like from the outside looking in, um, my mom she'd just be like, "I don't care," because Tarzan did whatever Jane wanted. So he would tell people, "Treat your husband like Tarzan, and he'll treat you like Jane." So that's the sort of advice he would give to people all over the country about how to build a happy marriage. Just treat each other well. And now some people marry evil people and they make totally bad decisions. So I don't know how to help you with that. But value your family and see it. We're involved in ministry, but my dad always saw his family as also being a ministry itself. So too many people, I don't know, they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the work. So especially so many people on the left see it as some kind of detriment, motherhood as a detriment. I mean, that's why we have like such an abortion culture, right? Um, it's really gross that the president, was with the education secretary, and they're basically like telling young women like they need access to abortion so they can fulfill their dreams. And I'm like, this is not a healthy sign of a society. We're we're encouraging mothers to kill their young so they can major in lesbian dance theory or something like that. It's just not healthy. But you see where priorities lie, and obviously that contributes to the lack of happiness. But it is interesting that they tried to spin it that way. Another interesting spin I saw from a leftist was, well, Democrats or liberals, they have more empathy. They said they have more empathy, and that's why they're more unhappy and their mental health is worse because they're feeling pain of everyone else around them. Now, I think there's a lot of feels there for sure. But how are you defining your empathy? Like, I had this conversation the other day, not the other day, maybe the thing was last week, and I don't remember if I mentioned it or not, but someone said something. I was going back and forth with people about abortion on TikTok. And so somebody said, accused like our side of not having any empathy. And I'm like, if you've been reading the comments that people have been leaving, I don't think you'll really see empathy. You'll see people calling women hosts and the baby a parasite. There are people who compared fetuses to cancer. I think that's always particularly gross. I don't know how many people out there have had a loved one die of cancer. I just wouldn't compare a baby to cancer. I wouldn't do it. There's been people who've, used terms like rapist child and called babies a stain that needed to be wiped out. Just really egregious stuff from the left. And I'm just like, those sorts of things I don't think are empathy, but perhaps it is empathy because people choose to feel how deeply they want to, but it doesn't mean they're still coming from the right place. So for example, when you look at women who have been raped and have been pregnant due to rape, there's a particular study, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll try to post it later. But and this sample size is small, so just want to alert you to that. But it said that 70 to 85% of women choose to keep their baby, and some women feel like they are reobtaining their agency, and I suppose because they can protect someone else from violence. But for the women who choose to keep their baby, what makes it so difficult is how society would look upon them, and they'd feel like they had, the society will make them feel like they're carrying a stain that needs to be removed rather than giving her all the love and the support that she needs. So when people like Biden, and a lot of people use a phrase like a rapist child and so on, and that's the only sort of time they'll address the child is when it's so weird. The only time I'll really hear pro-choicers refer to the unborn as a child is when it's the rapist child. That's like the only time. Otherwise, it's just a fetus. Or they'll say, it's not a child yet. It's not a child. I'm like, child is a son or daughter of any age. Yes, it is. But it's a child when it's the rapist, right? So I told people, I'm like, I know you guys are really trying to feel for the woman in that position, but when you use language like that, it really does harm. So yes, maybe they're trying to use their empathy, but that doesn't mean that it's not misguided. So perhaps people are stuck in their feels, but is their feelings driving them to do good, to be good, to do good for the people that they're feeling for? I mean, look, women feel each other's pain. We empathize with each other. That's one reason why the transgender movement has swept up a lot of young women. It's because they'll group together, and this person, is going through different emotions and depression and internalized misogyny and all kinds of other stuff, and their friend gets with it and their friend gets with it, and they're all like, oh, we're all trans. Or you'll see clusters of families where it's like, oh, all 4 kids mine are gay and trans. Like, do you think what's up with your genes? I don't think it's your genes. I think it's how you're raising folks. This doesn't seem very organic. Doesn't seem organic in the least bit. And also, you'll see people who I've heard people talk about how they work at different clinics and they see these people who come in for transgender issues and stuff. And a lot of people have different other mental issues going on with them. So they have feelings, but are they processing them in the right way? So I wouldn't say empathy is a good reason. And that's nothing to really, the empathy thing is so important for Democrats, but they really do assume people on the right don't have empathy. But could it just be that we do have empathy, but we just don't believe that your way of doing things is ultimately going to be the greatest good for that individual? Like you can want you can love your kids and want to do all this stuff for them and not ever punish them because you feel for them and you don't want them to ever be to feel bad when, especially when you punish them, but that doesn't mean that that's good for them, that they don't need some kind of discipline and structure. So just because you may feel a certain way doesn't mean that you are doing the right thing. Doesn't mean you're doing the right thing. Like there's a lot of people who will bow down to the gender, pronoun mafia brigade because they just want to do what feels good to them. But then it goes to, hey, you can't do any conversion therapy. Hey, we want to, give rights to sterilize kids. It just keeps going on and on once you give an inch because they want everyone to participate. It's not just you doing a nice thing for a person. It's no, we need all of society to comply with this. So just because you're doing the thing that you feel is compassionate doesn't mean that it's ultimately going to do the greatest good for that individual or society. So we just have a different way of looking at things. So it is interesting how the Democrats are really like gung-ho on the empathy stuff, but just because you got the deep feels doesn't mean they're good feelings to have, or that they're gonna or that it's good to let them rule you. Like when I went to the Democrat Party picnic and when I was talking about CRT and I was talking to the Democrat Party chair and I'm listing all these things about CRT, she admitted to me that she didn't know anything about it. And then she tried to like shut me down by saying, look, these people are racist. These people who are against it are racist. I've looked into their eyes, seen the depths of their soul, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And she doesn't know I'm a Republican. And I'm like, I know these people who've gone through this, who've gone to these meetings. I've spoken at some of these meetings with these people. I don't know everyone personally. So maybe some of them aren't good people, but they're there because they love their kids. So who are you? And you don't really know them. I know them better than you do. And you don't even know the subject matter we're talking about, but they wanted me to feel alarmed and as a Black woman to be like, oh, it's the racism, huh? And let my feelings rule me. So I would just ignore all the facts that I had. Just throw them out the window because of feels. it's really crazy. So one thing that the article did note is that conservatives need to they do have a problem. I mean, liberals have a problem because a lot of the things that they don't want to focus on or things that they've rejected are things that are going to ultimately lead to your happiness or more likely happiness, versus like conservatives, they have the things that are going to lead them to the happiness, but at the same time you have the society that's pushing all this stuff away, that's discouraging all this stuff. So what are you going to do with the next generation, especially to go to college on these places and they hear all this media and they have all these people discouraging this lifestyle? And then the conservatives or whatever, they'll keep breeding, but they're going to get that indoctrination stuff trickled in. I mean, people meet together to find a way how to bypass conservative parents and indoctrinate their kids. So conservatives need to find a way to fight back against that stuff, to push back against that stuff, but also reach across the aisle to convince people to have a more conservative worldview about and love for marriage and love for children, etc. And you know what? That is also key to those demographics voting more Republican. If more people don't have families, they're gonna keep voting blue. I'm not saying people with families don't vote blue, but that's a good, like Dana Lash, for example, used to be a big liberal, and she had a family. And she started thinking about different fiscal things and and start just thinking about the issues more. And she realized that being red and being conservative was going to be better for her family. Nothing will red pill you more or better than actually starting a family and seeing how bad policies are going to affect your kids. And I hope, going back to what happened in Dearborn and the protesting in Dearborn, I hope that's a red pill moment for a lot of people. Republicans, hopefully they're paying attention and they're going to get together to try to make a difference. Because we know where the lefties stand. So if people aren't taking advantage of the moment, I guess you deserve to lose, but I don't want to suffer because you didn't take the win. So get a plan together and defend your values. Get a plan together and defend your values, because if you don't, people are going to go with the devil they know. Perhaps they'd be willing to give you a chance if you'd have the guts to defend your values and your morals, etc., and then live by them, not just be like someone who's spouting them off, because people don't like hypocrites. People hate hypocrites, especially like religious, self-righteous hypocrites. People are waiting to tear them down. They'll bite you down to your ankles, like if they can. So you got to live the life that you're preaching about to the best of your ability. I know nobody's perfect, but to the best of your ability, and you have to defend them. Get out the statistics, get out the data, get some, but you can't just be facts and data all the time too. You have to show that emotional side as well, because that's what tugs heartstring. You got to know how to get to the base better. Not just your base, but crossover. You have to know how to market your values. So there's a lot of work to do, but we can win. You just got to be willing to do the work. I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, different articles, etc. Please check out different merch that we got, like the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For. I got the I voted for President Trump, and all I got was historic peace deals, border security, ISIS destroyed, energy independence, etc. Blah, 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 tax cut, this lousy t-shirt. Also got the GOAT hoodies and the GOAT t-shirts. I do have them in different colors, so you can check that out. If you like what I do at blacktnews.com, please consider leaving a donation at the website. It costs to stream, it costs to run my site, all kinds of stuff. So if you would like to give, I very much appreciate what you can do, whether it's a small gift of $10, if you want to do more, 50, 100, God bless you. Very much do appreciate that. I think this will be the last show actually of the week, because I got to get ready for Comic-Con, and I will be there this weekend. If you guys are in the Michigan area, I will have a booth in Artist Alley, so feel free to stop by. Otherwise, if you're interested in some of my books, you can go to blacktnews.com and check them out. You can also find me on Amazon, but yeah, I got a lot of books. It's my passion, and I love to write. Got books about vampires and werewolves and mermaids, and got some action adventure chapter books as well. I got a picture book. I wish I had my picture book ready. But my artist has had she's just been so busy. So look out for a lot of more stuff coming. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you, I guess, next week, because like I said, mama's busy. but keep up to date. Make sure you're following the socials, because I'll definitely be posting a lot. So God bless you guys.